Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Miss Lisa, and this is my YouTube channel where we talk about everything that I want to. I'm recording this on the phone, and the phone is on a holder, and it is bouncing because I touched it too hard. But anyway, we talk about everything that I want to that has to do with science and math, and today we're talking about biology, and we're going to talk about the senses. The five senses. I hold up 10 fingers and say five senses. But we're going to first of all talk about the senses that have to do with animals. But this is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And animals do it a little bit different, which is interesting because they can hear things we can't hear, see things we can't see. So very interesting. Before we get started, I'll tell you one thing that makes me think about that. We used to think that elephants were pretty much silent. They don't talk. They don't seem to. They seem just real quiet all the time. So we thought elephants were very wise and had good memories and were silent. And then someone had the thought, I wonder, just like how bees can see frequencies that we can't. They can see ultraviolet light. And dogs can hear things we can't hear that are much higher pitched. I wonder if elephants are hearing things that are a different frequency. As someone tested it, and they figured out that elephants hear lower frequencies than we do, and they are actually making noise all the time, that they're quite chattery and they're constantly making noise, but it's at a lower frequency than what we can hear. So we thought that they were silent when really it was just that we're arrogant and we think if we can't hear it, it must not exist. So anyway, so animals can hear things and see things, and their senses are different than ours, and sometimes they have even different kinds of sense organs. So your book talks about 4 animals. One, it talks about a very simple type of sensing is the planaria, those flatworms we talked about last time. Again, and once again, I tell you, go look on YouTube and watch them because they're really a pain to try to do labs with. But we talked about last time that they have eye spots that can detect light. They also have little pointy things on the side of their head. Their head are kind of triangle, and those little knobs on the sides, they can detect their water organisms, and they can detect the flow of currents of the water around them. So that's interesting. The book also talks about crickets, that they have organ for detecting sound on the front of their legs. So instead of having ears, they have these cells on their legs that can tell sounds. And then also the book talks about snakes. They smell differently than we do. They flick their tongues out and they get molecules that they're smelling off to stick to their tongue, and then they take their tongue back in their mouth, and they have this little place on the roof of their mouth that they stick their tongue up there, and that's how they smell. Then they put that chemical there, and then it goes to their brain, and their brain interprets it. So anyway, you can read through that, but it's just interesting to think about that not everything sees things the way we do or hears things the way we do. All right, so our first sense organ is our eye. And I always think about the eye, that the eye really makes you wonder about evolution being true or not, because why would an eyeball evolve that it doesn't know that there's light out there to see? And in particular with the electromagnetic spectrum, it's a very broad thing going from radio waves to gamma waves, and visible light is just a tiny little sliver of frequency there. So it's really mind-boggling to think that an eyeball would evolve to see light that it doesn't know that's there because it can't sense it. So it's one of those things that makes you go, All right, so the eye is what we used to see, and it has a hole that lets the light in, and that hole changes. It can dilate to let lots of light in. It can narrow to let little light in, depending on the light situation. It's got the colored part of your eye, which is called the iris. And I just found out my eye, you probably can't see it here, but it's blue, but around the very inside, the very closest to the black hole, it's sort of a brownish yellow. So I've got sort of yellow eyes in the middle. And I just found out that that's not normal. That, well, it's not like abnormal, but only about 200,000 people in the US have this, that most people's eyes are just one color, not two, but we have in my family, so, you know, everybody's eyes that I look at very closely. Like my son Nathan, his is real yellow in the middle. My sister's is brown in the middle, I think. Brown right around the middle part, and mine's sort of a yellowy brown around the middle. But anyway, we have brown, and then around the outside, and my eyes mostly look blue. If you can see them, they're mostly blue. But right in the center part, it's got a different color. So most people just have one color of eye, but I have two. But it's nothing like wrong with my eyes. It's just that's the way the pigment is. They say it's more common in animals than in people. But so the colored part of your eye, it could be brown, it could be very, very dark brown that looks black, but it's still the colored part of your eye is the iris. And your eye can focus. It is squishy, and like it's attached to muscles, so it can look around. And the light comes through the lens. It's not glass, it's just this thick stuff that light comes through. And then the light is focused on the back of your eyeball, like on a screen, and it is picked up by different cells in the back of your eye called rods and cones, and the rods can detect black and white and the cones can detect color, and then that information is transmitted through the optic nerve on back to your brain. Now the rods also can detect movement. So one of the things I do with the students I teach when they're in classes, I tell them to hold their hands beside their head. And notice how you don't really see the color of your hands too much. But if you move them, you can see that they're moving. You pick up this movement on the sides. But as you bring your hands around, you're going to be able to see the color so much more. So, and it's because of that placement of the rods and cones. And the rods are the ones that can detect movement, and they detect black and white, and the cones detect color. And it turns out, from what I've read, unless there's new research, that girls have more cones and guys have more rods. So girls can actually sometimes see colors that guys can't because they have more cones and they can pick up more variations in colors. But the weird thing is throughout history, the most famous artists have always been men. I mean, there are a few female artists, but you think of those people who are so great with color, Monet and, all of those people, Van Gogh, that these artists with color are men. And so anyway, just interesting things to think about. Sorry, I had to have a drink of my coffee. All right. Let's see what else we're going to talk. Oh, inside your eyeball, it's not hollow. It's got what's called a viscous, glassy fluid. It's just this thick, liquidy stuff. And you want that to stay in there. Let's see, what else? It's called the vitreous humor. It's like jelly stuff. The light goes in, rods and cones, the muscles. I think I've talked about all that. See the optic nerve. Okay, you can do the lab that's on page 337. It's just like mirrors and stuff like that, and it will show you some things about how you see. We did that lab last year in my biology class. It was interesting, and there's also one on page 338. If you're not following along with this book, the one on 338 is how you can look at things and you can see colors, and you can do like your eyes have memory. Like if you stare at something for a while and then you go look at a wall, you still see it. It's like when there's a flash and then you still see the blue spots. So that's interesting. You will really enjoy those labs, I think. Okay, the next one is the tongue and the nose is our sense of taste, and those work together. You taste sweet, salty, bitter, sour with your tongue, and then you smell with your nose, and that smell plus that is what gives smelling and flavors, gives you tasting. Now, your book says that there are regions of your tongue that taste salty, sweet, stuff like that. But I have read that recently that they think that might be wrong. So you can read that in your book, but then you might want to go read a little bit more research. But I had heard some new research says that they don't think that it is as cut and dry like your book shows, that certain areas taste certain things. So if you want to learn more about it, just know it's another one of those things. The one thing right now we have the COVID going on, and people will say, the reason why you do stuff is why you need to not question this, why you need to do certain things is because of science. And as someone with a science degree, I think that we have, as science teachers, given students the wrong idea that the number one rule of science is question everything. You don't say don't question because of science. Science is you question. And this is one of the things. The book says that your tongue has certain regions, and now the new thing is question that, even though it's in the biology books, that maybe it doesn't. Maybe the cells are more mixed up than what we thought. So just remember that the bottom line of science is we question. We ask those questions and we try to find the answers, and science is always changing because we're always discovering new things. Don't think it's done, and don't think that there's not a place for you in science to come discover something new. Don't get the idea that, oh, everything's already discovered, science is settled, hashtag science. No, and things that we thought were true might not be true, that we're always learning more, even the regions of the tongue in biology. All right, and I learned about those. I have a minor in English too, believe it or not. I'm not just science. But I learned in high school those regions of the tongue, and now they're starting to say that, your book was published, since the year 2000. It's a pretty new book. And they're starting to say that might not be true. All right, so you have olfactory things, glands, receptors in your nose that are receptors that detect molecules, that detect smells, and then it sends it to your brain. And the taste buds plus the smelling is what causes taste. Now our ears are how we hear. I feel like y'all are in kindergarten. We're going to hear with our ears. Notice that your ear is shaped kind of like a funnel. It's designed to bring the sound waves into the ear canal. That's why if you don't hear good, you go, huh? It's because you're making the funnel bigger and making it what to hear. It goes into the ear canal, and then there's the eardrum. And something I learned, once I was growing, was I thought that you had this eardrum. And that if it burst, that you would be deaf the rest of your life because you burst your eardrum. Now, do you know what? They can like get a hole and they can heal up. Amazing. We are just amazing how our bodies are. But anyway, so you've got, it's like a drum head, and it vibrates. It picks up those vibrations, and then those vibrations goes through a series of things in your ear to translate those vibrations into impulses to go to your brain. And so you have your three smallest bones in your body, the hammer, the stirrup, and the anvil. They have other names too, that then transfer those vibrations into fluid in the middle part of your ear, or back, in your skull more. And those vibrations of the fluids are then what causes pressure, which causes those impulses to send the information to your brain. There's another part of your ear that is these little loops that are filled with fluid, and they help you have balance too, and like dizziness and stuff like that. Your inner ear stuff helps with balance. And I got vertigo a few years ago, and I don't know how it happened. It seemed to be going around. I don't understand everything about vertigo, but I got it. And I was so dizzy. And it was right when Doctor Strange came out, the Marvel movie. And if you have seen that movie, it would make a normal person dizzy. Everything's always folding. Well, I went to go see it with full vertigo. And I am sitting there pushing myself as hard as I can back into my seat and just knuckles white, gripping my seat because it was the craziest thing to try to watch Doctor Strange with vertigo. So I wonder if I'm the only one in the world who did that, or if someone else had vertigo that day and had no idea that the whole world was going to be falling in on that movie and making you dizzy. But anyway, oh man, that's something I will never forget. Doctor Strange with vertigo. Okay, so dizziness, it has to do with your ears. So when you're riding rides at Six Flags, one of my favorites is Mindbender, the Riddler, going upside down, getting dizzy. It all has to do with your ears. So that's interesting, isn't it? All right, so your skin is how you have touch. You have nerve cells that you can feel pressure, you can feel pain, you can feel with your skin. There's a good cross-section of your skin on page 343 where it shows that you have things that make oil that goes to your skin, and touch nerve cells, cold nerve cells, heat nerve cells, hair goes through it, pain nerve cells. You have your epidermis and the dermis, and also pressure nerve cells. So you can feel your skin is an amazing, amazing thing that can tell all kinds of information to your brain. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about vision, about your eyeball. We've talked about it some. And we want to talk about problems with your vision. So people who can see perfectly, like my son Eli, their eyeball is shaped just right so that the light is focused on the back of their eyeball. But there are other people like me who cannot see very good at all, and I am nearsighted, which means my eyeball is shaped like this, and the light gets focused here instead of back where it needs to be. So I have to wear contacts or glasses or squint to be able to see. Now, other people's eyeballs are too tall, and it's like their light is being focused beyond their eyeball. Like, not that it really is because your eyeball's there, but where it's shooting for is too far back, and they are farsighted. So both of those can be corrected with corrective lenses. Now, talk about hearing loss. How can you protect against hearing loss? Well, the first thing is you want to watch what you hear. Loud noises can damage your hearing, or repetitive noises that aren't too loud for over a long period can damage your hearing. So you want to be just very careful because you want to be able to hear. And then the other thing that can hurt your hearing is fever. I have lost part of my hearing, and it happened when I was just probably a little bit older than you. I was probably 18, and I had gotten sick, and I wasn't on my parents' insurance anymore. I was in college, so I went to the cheapest doctor I could find, and maybe that wasn't a good idea because he did not take care of me very well. I had a fever. He gave me antibiotics. I came back. For those 2 weeks while I was taking those antibiotics, I still had the fever. Then he gave me new antibiotics. I took those for 2 more weeks. The fever the whole time never went away. Came back, still was having a fever, and gave me another set of antibiotics that didn't work. So for over a month, I had a fever every day, and that will cause you to lose your hearing. High fevers are dangerous, but fevers that aren't all that high over a very long period of time, like I had, can damage your hearing. And so now as a teacher, my public school kids who I teach, I'm always like, what? You know I'm deaf. You have to speak up. Talk louder. I know they get tired of it because, Miss Blackbird, they have to really talk up because I got hearing loss as a teenager over a fever. So what a pain. But now there are things they can do for hearing loss. There are hearing aids, and now they have ones that use Bluetooth technology where it works with your phone, and that your phone hears, and then it puts it up into your ear better and stuff. That's really cool. And another thing is they have cochlear implants now where they can do implants where it transmits signals to your brain. I have a lady I know who was born deaf, and usually if you're born deaf, they don't let you do cochlear implants because they'll put them in and the person still their brain can't make sense of the impulses. But because she was so good at lip reading and so good at speaking, they decided to go ahead and let her have cochlear implants, and she can hear pretty good now. Like, so she still kind of lip reads too with her cochlear implants, but anyway, it's really neat what all they can do now. And there are some great videos if you want to look them up on YouTube with your mama. But there are babies hearing for the first time, hearing their mom, and it'll make you cry. It is so sweet. All right, so that's chapter 16 about senses. Come back and we will talk about animal behavior. And we're going to do the next two chapters, I think 17 and 18 together, and then you'll take 2 weeks on those. So anyway, like, share, subscribe. Science is great. Math is great. See you soon.